Hey everyone, Orthotic Chips here, Chiappetta Shoes. This is a workshop live. Today we have an F24 fallen arch, really bad post-tibia tendonitis, and fallen naviculars. Now this customer of mine has been coming to us for a long time, and he's been a great guy. He's worked with us for a long time. We've been making him custom orthotics from the start. Really good recipe that we have that I want to talk about. Medial posting. There's a number of ways to do medial posting, but before we talk about the orthotic, which we are picking up a new set today, I want to talk to you about impression process when you're taking an impression of a foot. Now, structurally, when you're taking an impression of a foot, there's a few ways to do this. When we set you up with a new custom orthotic, we make a positive plaster mold. And the positive mold is how we make the insert. Now, when you do an impression, there's a couple of different philosophies. We believe the best way is a semi-weight-bearing impression. And the idea, the concept, is you're taking the heel bone, the first metatarsal, and the fifth metatarsal, and you're capturing that geometry, that plane in an even scale. So structurally, you want to capture the shape of the arch and the midfoot, the longitudinal and the transverse arch and the lateral arch in a way that gets the best starting point. And what we mean by the best starting point is having that contour and even weight distribution. This is the important part, from the heel, fifth, and first. Now, when we look at feet, the foot typing, we say F24. There's three main factors when you're doing foot typing. You're looking at arch height, duh. You're looking at toe alignment. Oftentimes, very flat, flexible feet have a large forefoot varus. They're cocked to the outside. Now, when you have that large forefoot varus, what happens is these midfoot joint ranges right here, where the metatarsals meet the first through third cuneiforms and the cuboid. It creates a lot of flexibility in the system. So as the forefoot splay to the outside, that arch can rotate down and the toes abduct or rotate to the outside. So when we have an F24, there's a lot of action and play. Now in this case, and you'll see on the orthotic, the navicular has significantly dropped down. But as a part of talking about medial posting, is that when you're taking the impression of a foot for an orthotic, there's some correction in the impression process just for F24, F20, A1, and A5 foot types. And those are your ultra high arches and your super flat flexible feet. And the key concept when you're taking the impression is, again, heel, metatarsals, even plane. Oftentimes when you're taking the impression of a super flat arch, you're taking that heel, and if you're just taking the knee and hip in an even alignment, the arch is going to be fallen and the heel will be rotated in. You draw that foot to the midline, closer to the groin area, and then you rotate the knee out, and what you're getting is an even upright heel bone. Now, let's talk about the orthotics. I'm going to take you top down. Got all the nerdy stuff done. We've got two sets that we've been very happy with. We have subortholine and a extra firm JMS J cork. We've got this extra medial posting here. This is an existing set. If you look at kind of the contour that this customer gets, there's a good amount of shape right past the heel bone, around that navicular region, and then in the front of the arch area before that first met. We're going to accentuate that with an extra 6 millimeter medial wedge. Now, sometimes medial wedges can be just the rear foot, just past the navicular. This time we're going full up to that first metatarsal head. So that's kind of a full run medial post. And 6 mil is about 2/3 of the way to the maximum amount you want to do. The max you want to do is 6 millimeters. So I'm going to grab the 6 mil. Give me 2 seconds here. 2 seconds. All right. So we've got 6 millimeter JMS cork. JMS cork is an extra firm multi-cork. It is actually a cork and nylon composition. Very interesting, really good stuff. Heat moldable, does a great job. holds up to wear and tear very well. We'll often go with the extra firm cork in cases of extra weight, people that are over, I would say 225 or greater, or extremely flat, flexible feet that we need to really beef this sucker up. Because when you use a subortholine plastic, this is 2mm subortholine, it still has a little bit of flexibility to it. The filler agent is that bottom layer. That's what's filling up the bottom of the foot. And we want to use something on the heavier side of things. So what I'm going to do right now, we're going to take you over to the grinding machine. We're going to do some pre-finishing work. We're going to shorten this up a little bit. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about that fit of a good orthotic and what that means when you're making an orthotic fit as many shoes as possible. There's a couple of fine points there, but we're going to shorten this up just a little bit in the toe box, and then take it to the grinding machine. So. Okay guys, so when you're making an orthotic, you have three main variables. You have the overall thickness of the insert. Top two layers are the cushioning factor. When it blends into the heel, you get an extra about 1mm or so of the bottom layers of material. We shave it down real nice. But overall, three main variables when you're making an orthotic. Overall thickness, it's gotta fit inside of shoes. The base width, also super important for how it sits inside of the shoe. If it's taking up too much space, it's gonna pinch. Now we're adding a medial wedge to take up more room, but because we have such a fallen arch situation, we're working with straight lash shoes. I believe we're wearing the Brooks Beast, great shoe for something like this. So bottom base width is important from a fit perspective, so it sits inside the shoe's strobel board area, the inside liner area, as best as possible. Third factor is the wall height. This is a very fallen arch, navicular dropped situation, so we have to leave it high wall height. We do 1 inch from the base, and that's our gauge. So it's not quite a full UCBL, but it's close to that. And because we have that extra inch of material, it's a nice and nice. So take your top down. All right, now existing orthotics, we're going to use this as kind of a guide, and we have kind of an interesting first met cutout. What I like with this gentleman is giving him something that leads right up to that first met and then kind of wraps around that spot, so we get a really nice cupping of cupping and control of that first ray. So talking about kind of that break point right there, it's a really nice setup. So, okay. GMS cork is tough stuff. It is very heat moldable. You got to heat it up for about a minute, which we'll do in about 5 minutes. But I'm going to cut our template. All right. JMS Plastics, good people. I believe they're out of Pennsylvania or Ohio. I like getting some of my materials from them. Acor Orthopedic is kind of my go-to, and you know, we're always looking for new materials. I would love to get my hands on some supercritical foam. Haven't been able to do that yet, but that's on the list to do. Beautiful. Okay, we're gonna cut another one. Now, when we do modifications like this, something for you guys to know is Chiappetta Shoes does not charge for modification work. I'm not going to nickel and dime you for adding extra things that we need to do. This is a part of the process, and in some cases, like with this gentleman, this is kind of our starting point. We know this is the right setup. We know this is what's required to keep his ankles and arches and knees and hips healthy. So we always kind of start with this. In a lot of cases, though, when we make an orthotic, we have our people wear an orthotic for about 2 weeks at a time. And in that 2 weeks, that's a good initial starting point to see, okay, how's my body feeling? You always want to consider not just your feet, but feet, ankles, knees, hips, back, neck, you know, like what we do underneath us on the foot translates all the way up into the rest of the body. So perfect. All right, at that first spot, we're gonna mark from heel. Perfecto. Okay, another starting point. Excellent. And again, when you're doing this kind of work, there's a number of ways to wedge, do medial wedges. As we've discussed in the past, if you watch the channel, I do not like lateral wedges. Only in extreme cases we'll do lateral wedges. But there's lots of ways to do wedges. Medial, you gotta treat differently from lateral. And when we do the medial side of things, you always gotta consider the kinetic effects up the chain. Because when you start wedging, you have a direct impact on the ankles, knees, hips, and back. Just straight, proper weight distribution, kind of the starting point of a good orthotic, how you take the impression of a foot. If you're doing it in a subtalar, neutral, even, plain weight distribution, like what we let off with the video, that's in most cases, that's a neutral starting point for everybody. Every rule can be broken. Some people's neutrals are a little bit different depending on your foot type, which is an important part to know. And your extremes, your F24, your F20, your super flat feet, those are extremes. Those need some correction to get back to neutral. And sometimes even your D16s, D12s are usually pretty good. But your flat foot family, D12, D16, F20, F24, typically need correction in varying degrees. Now, on the high arch side of things, your A1 and A5 foot types, that family, sometimes if they're so kind of inverted or the heel's really cocked to the outside, sometimes those also need to be corrected. And what you do is opposite of what we started talking about within the beginning of this video. You rotate, you shift the foot to the outside, and you're kind of bowing the knee in a little bit with the intention of getting that heel, instead of cocked to the outside, you're getting that even. It's always about the calcaneus alignment. So, all right. We got that glued up. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back, all right? All right, Tony Chips here, back again. This is Workshop Live, F24, foot type, post-tibia tendon dysfunction, fallen navicular. We got to support this bad boy. So we have a nice custom orthotic, 2mm support lean, 65 durometer JMS cork as the supporting base layer, nice 35 durometer top, EVA foam, microcell puff, and then a pour-on 1.5 layer below that. 5mm total thickness. Nice and nice setup. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna add this medial arch wedge, and it's gonna be a full wedge up to that through the first ray. So one of the longer medial wedges that we can do. Now I'm gonna take you over to the heating oven and get you going over here. Oven on over here. Okay. All right, goodies are in the oven. So, with this material, we do about 60 seconds to get it nice and soft and pliable to wrap around the arch area. Got another 40 seconds or so to go. Now when we're doing this, it's important to get the material heated up properly, and using a heat moldable material to wrap around the edge is very important. If you use an open cell material and you're trying to wrap it around the edge, oftentimes you're gonna get a pulling away from the glue or a cracking kind of situation. Sponge rubber is one of those things that can just pull away really easily. It doesn't mold quite as well as it should. So whenever you're doing anything in a two-plane access point, you really want to make sure you're using a heat moldable material, a closed cell material. And that's what we have with the JMS cork. Again, cork and nylon, 65 durometer, really, really nice stuff. So pull this out of the oven in a sec. Four, three, two, one. All right. Oh, stop. Whew. All right. So this stuff can get toasty. All right. Now you want to get it while it's warm, and get that wrapped on there real nice. Make sure you get a good seal. Around the edge. I'm going to take this to because it's firm, even though it's heat moldable or open cell, it often likes to pull away. So you got to make sure you keep that pressure on there. Get that done. We're going to take a quick break to get this done. All right. That's a wrap, folks. It's been an F24 day fallen arch navicular medial wedge installation, full through the first ray, cupping that first metatarsal, nice and nice, 6mm JMS cork. If you have any problems, make sure to make Chiappetta shoes your first step when solving foot pain. Ain't no better than Chiappetta. Thanks for tuning in.